In some previous videos, we have read a raw resource, a text file, and then at that stage, we just sort of pasted out the contents of the file that we read. And this time we're going to do a little bit more. We're going to do some parsing. We're going to break the text up into words and sort of shuffle up those words and produce what's called a Dada poem. So you take some text, break it up into words, rearrange the words randomly, and that's what's known as a Dada poem. So we'll write an app that produces a Dada poem from, well, our source will be Shakespeare sonnets and turn them into Dada poems. So the code can be found at the URL scene. Okay, so here is the app. It's a button and a text box. We're going to read a file, read one of Shakespeare's sonnets, 15 to 18, and then take the words in that sonnet and rearrange them into a Dada poem. And so there is now our created Dada poem. So sort of just crazy random ordering. And then I have a few different sonnets, and then also the words are arranged randomly. So we can all be poets this way. Okay. So let's see what we have here. The layout, as you saw, was quite simple. It was a button and a text. The button to invoke, just to have some event that causes the reading. It could have been done in the creating the layout, but I put it on a button and then a place to put our result, in this case, our Dada poem. Also, among the other resources we're interested in are the raw resources. Again, there are different ways to read text files, but we're doing it as a raw resource. So in the resource folder, we right-click and say new directory, and then we are adding a raw directory. Has to be small letters. That's our naming scheme among resources. And then we pasted some text files in here. So we've had some text files out in the computer system, we copied them, and then we right-clicked and pasted them here in raw. And that sort of registered them within Android Studio. They also obey the naming scheme of small letters, underscores, and numbers. We also have the file extensions. When we refer to the resource name, we will not include the file extension. So those are our resources, our layout, our raw resources. Now we'll turn to the main activity. We have a button and text view, and I'm reading, so there's a character set, and I'm using Java's version of random. So the Kotlin sort of sits on top of the Java, and Kotlin has a random, Java has a random, and I happen to be using Java's randomness. So I copied this from an older version of the program I had. Connect interface to code for the button, do the same for the text view, instantiate a random number generator. 15 to 18 is our range of random numbers because we have sonnets, Shakespearean sonnets, 15 to 18 as text files. When we click the button, I'm clearing out any previous text I had. So if I had an old poem, I'm getting rid of it and I'm starting a new poem. I am using my random generator to random number generator and creating a number. This is max of 18 minus min of 15, which is 3 plus 1 is 4. So I'm getting a random number between 0, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm adding 15 to it, giving me a random number between 15 and 18. I create the name of the resource, sonnet underscore one of these numbers. I look up that name in my raw resources within the namespace of my package, and that gives me the ID of this raw resource. And then I am opening that raw resource, and that creates an input stream, which I am then reading. And previously what we did was then just pushed out the text into the text view, but now we're going to do some parsing. We're going to break it up into words. So these sonnets had lines and punctuation and capital letters and small letters and so on. So that's what we want to sort of deal with next. And so we're doing some using the string replace method and using some regular expressions. So here we're taking the new line escape sequence \n, and because we want the backslash to act as a backslash, we're doing \n, and then we are converting that to the corresponding regular expression. And then we are replacing anytime we find that new line character regular expression, and we're replacing it with a space. So we're not going to respect, we want to get rid of everything. We want to simplify the delimiters. Right now we have delimiters of new lines and spaces between words. Sometimes we have new lines, sometimes we have commas, sometimes we have spaces. And so we're trying to get down to sort of one delimiter, and then we'll split up the text into just words. So we're getting rid of one of the delimiters, the new line character, in place of a space. And that will be our sort of common delimiter. And then now we're getting rid of, we're using a range in regular expressions. So square brackets gives you a set of things. And I'm going to ignore this caret for just a second and then come back to it. So if you had square brackets and you said A to Z, small a to Z, capital A to Z, and then here this was a space, that would mean small letters, capital letters, and spaces. When we put in a set of things like this in the square brackets in regular expressions, within the square brackets, the caret means not. So we're talking about anything that's not a small letter, a capital letter, or a space. And we are going to replace all those with nothing. So we're getting rid of the commas, the periods, anything that's not a letter or a space, we're getting rid of. So we got rid of the new line characters and just made them spaces. Now we're getting rid of everything that's not a letter or a space. Now we came down here in line 58 and we moved everything to lowercase. So all of the, none of the words now have capital letters. They're all lowercase. And so we should all have, now it should all be on a single line, in lowercase, with no punctuation, just have spaces. And now you might occasionally have places where there are 2 spaces or 3 spaces or something like that. So the next thing we're going to do is not this time replace, but split. So we're using a delimiter to break something up, some text up into smaller units. And we're using \s, which in regular expressions is white space. And the plus means sort of any amount of white space. So if it comes across a tab, a space, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, so any kind of white space, so that would be a space or a tab or so on. And then the plus means sort of any amount. So if there are 2 spaces or 3 spaces, it won't matter. It'll treat them all as just the delimiter. And then we're splitting the text on that. And that gives us sort of a list of words. We want to make it mutable because we want to now, the next thing we want to do is shuffle the words up to put them in a random order. So to keep all the words, but rearrange them randomly. So that's known as a shuffle, as if you were shuffling cards. So lists in most modern language, either the list or the random, one of them have a built-in shuffle. So in Kotlin, it is the list has a shuffle. You might find it in other places that it belongs to random. So you might say, here's the random thing, and then shuffle, and here's what I want to shuffle. Or you can say, here's the thing I want, here's the list I have, and I want to shuffle. So that's how it is in Kotlin. The list, and then the method shuffle. Here I'm just showing you, if you had to do it for yourself, an old-fashioned shuffle. And this is, not an efficient version of the Fisher-Yates algorithm sort of shown here. Sort of, take 2 words, take a given position and then a random position and swap those 2 words. but there's a built-in shuffle, so we're going to use that. So now we have our words and we've shuffled them up. And now we're going to create from that our Dada poem. So we start with a blank Dada poem. So Dada equals quote, quote. And then we have a loop. We're going to loop through all of the words in this list. And we're going to add a word to our Dada poem. And then I have just this number I'm pulling at random. This time I'm using the random number generator to generate a double. And I just sort of made up this number 0.8. So 80% of the time, the random number will be, because this is a number between 0 and 1. So 80% of the time, I will add a space. So I'll add a word, and then after it, I will add a space. But the other 20% of the time, I will end the line and have a new line character and a carriage return. So I will move to a new line. And so when I'm done with all the words, either putting them one next to the other or starting a new line, then I have my Dada poem, which then I make the text of my TV sonnet, my text view. And then we're at the bottom of this wonderful app. So that's what I wanted to show you. Thank you very much.